Okay. Bonjour, Annie. Jackie Minton, Division of Cause. We're going to call the Sioux Tribe Election Commission meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, December 18th, and the time is 11:10. Can we do a roll call, please? Here.
Okay, Letitia Willett.
Here. Here.
Ernest Demon.
Here.
Phil Martin is going to be here later. Luann Doherty is myself. And Jackie.
Here. Okay, could we start with it? You want to say invocation?
Gajamanado Daga Bajinda Moshin Nangwa. Not a motion on Kino. We win. Je Ganawamdiang. Meanwhile, we win. Ganodiang. And so Gizzy God. Megwitch, 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 Megwitch.
Megwitch.
It's quiet.
Oh,
I turn it up a little bit.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so we have the minutes from 10:16. Has everyone gone over them? Are there any questions or any corrections?
I make a motion to accept them.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second.
All right. Can I vote to accept the minutes? Those in favor, yay?
Yay.
Nay? Abstain?
I'll abstain. I wasn't here.
Motion carried.
Because you weren't here.
Yeah, she wasn't here.
That's good.
Okay. We didn't have any email votes for the record to reaffirm, so we can go on with that. Okay, number 6 is a resignation. I put this on the agenda because we didn't receive, like, we didn't get a copy or anything of a resignation letter from Boyd. We just got message that a text message was received. So I was wondering where that resignation letter was, and that the election commission should have a copy of the resignation letter. So
in your packet is the email that I had sent to the Election Commission on Tuesday, September 24th.
Wow, that's a long time.
So Tuesday, September 24th at 8:19 a.m., I had sent, well, that was a message to Ryan and Ashley, but if you look at that narrative, got this text from Boyd about 5 to 10 minutes ago. As of this date and time, I am forced into stepping down and out from the Election Commission. Sorry, this was a hard decision, but it had to be. Signed, Boyd Snyder. That is his resignation letter. That's it. That's all he gave us. Nothing else. That was his resignation, and he sent it via text just to me. So I made sure that it got transferred over to my email. I sent it to you guys. He sent that early in the morning, like before I was even at work. So if you look at the email that I sent to the Election Commission, it was September 24th at 9:06 a.m. So within an hour or so of me being at work that morning, I made sure you were advised. So,
I remember.
and then just for further clarification, we attached the minutes from the Board of Directors meeting from, I believe, October 1st. And if you go to one of the final pages on here, you will see that the board took official action to accept that resignation. And these minutes are approved, so.
I watched that board meeting.
So
So-
there was not a resignation letter sent to the Board of Directors?
The resignation text was sent to me, and we're calling that his resignation letter because that is all he submitted to resign from this commission. That's his resignation letter. I'm sure I still have it in my phone if anybody would like to see the original. I wouldn't have deleted something like that, so.
But my question is, was there a resignation letter sent to the Board of Directors?
Yes.
His text
From
message.
me.
His text message is his letter. It's in writing, it's electronically signed by him, it was received by the board administrator. That is his resignation quote letter. It is in writing, it's an email, it's legally binding. That's what was sent to the board and sent to the commission. There was nothing further that Boyd submitted.
And he didn't need to. That's all.
Yeah, and there's nothing that obligates him to send anything more than that. That text message is sufficient for him to resign.
Did he resign from anything else?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So, he wrote, oh, hi, I'm sorry, it was at 8:11 a.m. on Tuesday, September 24th. Wrote exactly what I just read into the record. And my only response was to him was, Boyd, I'm really sorry to hear this. I will pass on the information, which I did. I'll have it in my phone.
All right, thank you. We have to reschedule the workshop date with the Board of Directors. That was missed in November because everyone was sick or at the doctor's or at
I
the
had a funeral.
Yeah. So what kind of, do you have any dates? Anyone?
I should have grabbed my cell phone.
Yeah.
I did not come prepared with a date because we haven't scheduled anything yet for workshops in January, well, minus two things. So the basic parameters, would you prefer to meet with them in January or February? So we'll start there. And it'll be either the second or the fourth Tuesday. If you can tell me if you'd rather do January or February, I can pull up some dates.
I think that I would like to hear from you guys that travel from so far away because you are the ones that make this trip.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean,
Yeah.
you could do it March or April too. I mean, I'm just looking at January, February because it was rescheduled. So if you want it later, that's fine too.
Well, another thing that we probably might want to look at is when are those meetings going to be, the Zoom meeting's going to be scheduled with the membership for their input onto this code. What do you guys think? Do you think we should we meet with them before the membership has their input? Or should we meet with them after the membership has their input?
Usually, no.
Honestly, I would want to do it all at once and get it done personally, but that's my personal choice.
We were
I'm
going to
okay.
give them the option. And if we do it after, they'll feel like they had no.
You got to have your mic on, Lou. Microphone.
We were going to give the membership the option, and if we do it before, it'd probably be better, because if we do it after, they're going to feel they weren't involved.
Yeah, that they didn't have a voice in it.
Yeah.
No, I meant do the membership meetings before you meet with the board to have all that together. That's what I didn't know if I was clear on that.
Oh.
So I was thinking maybe March, April, just for that.
What do you think, Ernie?
I think February, or we don't want to do it on January.
March, April, they're all fine with me.
Okay, Pasa.
That's fine with me also.
Okay.
Ryan, you got opinion?
Well, I think by the time, I think if you guys do it in March or April, we should have a really solid red line based on your comments, any comments that I might bring to the table, and then especially all the comments from membership. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we'll have a really good Chapter 10 put together by then to also discuss with the board, or at least let them know at that time, at that meeting, hey, the commission has a real strong revision to present soon. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Alrighty, well then,
We have to wait for her to do the board
She's
stuff.
doing the board's, yes.
So how about for the January meeting, I bring back a couple date options for you guys, and you can decide then at January, and we'll just add it to that agenda?
That sounds
Uh-huh,
good.
yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
That's
perfect.
Great.
we're pretty informal.
Okay, now we're 2025 meeting schedule. You have one in here, hey, Lon, I saw.
Yep.
And this is with the third Wednesday of every month.
Wait, hold on.
Does anyone have a conflict with this?
When's my
Last page.
last page? You gave me too much information.
In your staple packet,
It's the last page in that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the very, yeah.
I'm there almost.
Literally the last.
Okay. Yeah.
Before we go, I would like to just point out one
When's
thing.
our, I can't remember when our elder meeting is. That would be the only problem that I would have.
Is it on Wednesdays?
Yes.
Third Wednesday? This is the way we've been going all
Yeah,
along.
if this is the way we've been going,
Yeah.
this is fine.
Okay.
So,
It works for me.
yeah,
Works better for the commission, that's.
We don't know.
I mean, we're the ones that decided on this schedule,
Yeah.
so I think it's working. I mean, we pretty much put that into our calendars. Tish, you know,
I'm
you're
good.
good?
It's fine, as long as it's,
can I make a request, because we didn't have the board of directors calendar approved until December 3rd, so we had already put this together, and I didn't want to propose a date that wasn't the third Wednesday. In July, we may not even be here again, because the board is scheduling another meeting in the Detroit-Lansing area. So that is scheduled already for July 15th. Ashley and I will both be there. We are not even, if we're done that day, we're not even coming home until the 16th. So I don't know if you'd be willing to just make an adjustment now
Why don't
for July.
you for sure got your July date?
Oh, yeah. Yep, the board approved their calendar already for 2025. So
January 15th is my birthday, so if you all want to do something fun on that day,
oh, yay!
the 15th, I'm just being silly, but yeah, the 15th is my birthday of January.
Are you going to send Josh?
I'll send Josh. No, I want to be here.
No.
Well,
Cupcakes.
you know, I mean, could we change it? We could change it to the 23rd, a week later.
That should work for us. We don't have anything with the board on that day at this point.
Are we talking
July
about
20th.
January?
July.
July.
Okay, July, that's fine.
All right.
and we still want it at 11?
11 o'clock.
Yeah. It takes us a couple of.
No, I was asking, and I'm down the road.
July, what is it?
Either which way, I'm down the road, so it's okay.
So we haven't accepted this yet, so we'll just put that change in there now.
Okay,
And
cool.
then we can make a motion to accept this calendar.
The January, do you want us to change that date or?
No, I was just being
No.
silly. You don't have to change it. We did talk about, I think, one of the meetings, maybe, this is something you can decide later, but maybe having some of the meetings at various times to see if we get more membership participation. I don't know if that's something the commission still wants to consider. 11 o'clock works great for staff. Obviously, we're right down the road, but that's just something to keep in mind. We can decide, you can decide that later if you want to change the time of one, but I know we talked about that possibility.
I'd definitely do those summer times for the travelers.
Yeah, because otherwise we have to drive in the dark.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, which is one of my favorite things with deer running around. So in the summer, it wouldn't be a problem because it's daylight till, well, our new president said that's gonna
We'll just keep the dates, and we can always flex the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, we can decide the times for for these meetings, or are we talking for the Zoom meetings with the membership for input? Are those the meetings we're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
any and all.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, let's just, I don't think we need to nail those down in cement today, and,
As long as we keep the same day.
yeah, we'll keep the same day.
And then if, say, at the January meeting, you decide you want to do February at 3 o'clock instead of 11, then we would just notice it that way, so you guys can decide meeting by meeting what time the next one will be if you want. And if you don't change anything, it'll just stay at 11 a.m.
That works.
We're pretty flexible.
Yeah.
I am noticing, like with me, with the education department, they have put some new procedures in, and I have had to sign paperwork. I cannot use my phone, I can't use my printer, I can't use my laptop, nothing for anything to do with the election commission.
Oh, well.
And and if I do, I will get written up. So, anything that we could do, after 4:30 or at 5 o'clock is great for me. But I'm not going to push that on everybody. But I just, there are those things that have come up. So I'm going to need the phone. I haven't gotten the phone yet for this. And,
I thought we did it already. It's been nuts. I thought
No.
we did that already.
nope.
No, Ashley got it all set up, but then we didn't coordinate our schedules, but,
Yeah, and I don't
and
have
she's
access
sick
to
today. It is ready for you,
the
Jackie.
email or anything.
Yeah,
So,
email.
okay,
Email Ashley and Lana and figure out a time, because it is all set up for you.
Okay, because I haven't received any of that yet, and it's going to start becoming a problem. So I just want to make
We
sure
don't-
we get those all tied up.
We don't want you written up, that's for sure.
So, okay, so that's what we'll do. These are the dates, and the times will be flexible. Okay, so we need a motion.
Motion to accept the schedule as written with the change of July to July 23rd.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried. All right, cool. Miigwech for doing that, Lana.
Thank you, Ashley.
Well, thank you, Ashley.
She's online today.
Oh, is she?
Okay, so are we ready to start with going into the election ordinance? And, I mean, we've done a lot of work on this. There's not a whole lot left to do.
Oh, we're in that.
Yeah, I just put it up on the screen.
All right.
And we
I
got
can't
through a
read.
big chunk of it. Where we left off was 10.114, campaign financing. There's only a few sections after that, and a lot of them will go quick, so presumably.
I stepped on mine the other night, now I can't read. They fell off the bedside stand and I got up. Felt them under my foot.
So so I'll just continue like we did last time. I'll just read off like the first few sections or the first section, and then we'll talk about any comments everyone has.
That worked.
Okay. 10.114, campaign financing. Any person expending money on a campaign must first file as 1, a candidate, or as 2, a non-candidate registrant, with the exception of contributions pursuant to subsection 1 of this section. Subsection 1 is solicitation of contributions by candidates. A, candidates shall not solicit contributions until after submitting a letter of intent pursuant to section 10.111. B, candidates shall only accept contributions from individuals. C, candidates shall not solicit contributions in any tribal office or enterprise, including wholly or partially owned subsidiaries. Maybe I'll stop there since that's all on one page and we can pause for a second.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're just, my question might be answered down the road, down this list, but one thing that I have a question about is solicitation of contributions. Candidates receiving contributions from contractors that we do business with, from any contractors for the tribe, through the casino, through EDC. Is that covered under this?
Let me see if it's further down. No, I don't think it's real explicit. So the way past election committees, in my understanding, have handled that is, if I'm running for the board and say I go to, I don't know, I can't think of a company. I go to a company that we contract with and I ask for a donation. I can't get a contribution from the company as a whole, but arguably under the code right now, if that individual owner in his personal capacity or her personal capacity wanted to contribute funds, that is, under the strict reading of the code, allowable. It's not advisable for candidates to do that because it gets real muddied, but that's the line. The company itself that we contract with can't give funds, but an individual, if it's very clear that it's their personal contribution, can give funds, as it works right now.
And I think that is something that we need to address because that gives incumbents much more of an advantage than it does to a regular tribal member coming in and running for office for the first time. That is just, those are my thoughts on it. I'd like to hear what anybody else thinks about that.
Section B says candidates shall only accept contributions from individuals. That leaves out companies and corporations, and I don't know how we would stop a company owner from donating to a candidate. It's probably a gray area.
Well, we know, I mean, like, we know who the owners of these companies are that we contract with. You know, yeah, we know who the owners are, so that's something, that's just something that needs to be looked at.
Oh.
You know, something that we could bring up to membership and they could tell us what they think of it. Because it would not be hard to identify who the owners of these companies are that we contract services from.
I don't think that we should have a list of individuals that are not allowed to donate, which we would be coming up with.
I agree with that, Ernie. We can't really, this is a hard one, guys.
Maybe there's like, maybe there is, you know, maybe we can look at it and hear from other membership and other people what they think, how it could be dealt with. And maybe it cannot be dealt with, but it's something that needs to be looked at. Those are my thoughts on it. It just needs to be looked at. And we need to make sure there's a level playing field for the average tribal member that wants to run and serve.
That's really hard because that could be misconstrued. You know,
Yeah.
then they're going to want a favor. You know what I mean? This has all been in question. I've heard this from the membership. But we can't really do anything.
Well, let's just list it as a talking point.
Yeah, I flagged it as maybe create more robust language in regards to individual owners of companies the tribe contracts with, how to deal with these types of individual contributions. I don't have any thoughts right now how to craft it, but I flagged it here for us so I can think about it and the membership can give input on it. Because it does, I understand where you're coming from, because it does kind of look like maybe the incumbents have a leg up because they know all of our contractors, and even if they're asking for individual contributions, it's kind of in that gray area. It's probably, to Ernie's point, it probably would be hard to enforce and maybe not advisable to have like a list of people, oh, you can't contribute to incumbents or otherwise, but I understand it's a concern that has come up in the past with past election committees, and it's been dealt with, making sure that when they do the financial reporting, that it's very clear that this is from an individual and not the company. And if it was from the company itself, then you're in violation of the code. So I do know it's an issue that has popped up and will pop up again.
Yeah, because it kind of just reminds me of, lobbyists in Washington DC, how big insurance companies. I mean, that's what just reminds me of that just reminds me of it. So that's why I brought it up.
Quick question, when they report it, do they have to, how, they have a check, or we could limit of how they have to donate? So it's reportable as an individual? So it says an individual? That's something that you might want to think about. It's an individual check, money order, something more traceable than just reporting it?
Oh, yeah,
Like asking
like
their copies, you mean?
don't they?
Because they do have to give some receipts.
They have to give receipts, yeah.
Yeah, that's something, I'll make note of, that's something to consider, like types of documents that the commission would
Yeah.
allow, require to be submitted with your financial statements.
Because you can see Venmo, PayPal, Cash App coming up to a big forefront on that issue. Electronic, especially as the candidates get younger.
Yeah, as long as if we go that route, can be very narrow in the way we craft it in code, so it's not like, I don't want it to appear like the commission is trying to get all your bank statements or your whole Venmo transaction list. There's ways that it can be just that receipt, right? And be clear about that, yeah.
And I may be getting ahead here, but this is one of the reasons why I think, we need to come up with a way so that the election commission is able to see the financial reports from candidates. I know right now you don't want to do it because you don't want them flying around the casino, but, maybe if, however we have to do it, we have to come up with a way so that we are able to see that, because we are overseeing.
Just a point of information, the commission has always been able to view those documents, and we've been advising from the beginning, the only way you have to view those documents is just contact me. You can come down to my office, check everybody's file, and that's a legal thing. I don't know that we were comfortable with just emailing everybody's financial statements to everybody, so I don't know if that was an administrative procedure we put in place to protect all candidates. You're allowed to come into my office to view their files at any given time, as long as you let me know ahead of time.
And that, I think that the commission should see it as a whole together, because, one may have questions, another one, everyone's going to have a different, there may be there's different views on it, so that's why I just think we should all see it together. And I'm not saying it get emailed. I do know in the past, the election commission had access to that, and that they did see that. I would just, there's got to be a way to come up with it, because I don't have time to run to your office to go look at that. I just don't have time to do it.
Yeah, so
And there's people that, from those outside, and so, could we just look at trying to find a way to do it? That's all I'm asking.
yeah, and that doesn't have to be in code either, right? That can be in like just our internal, this body here, you and the staff, like the internal procedures. I know in the past, a lot of the election committees were predominantly Unit 1 team members, and so it was really easy for them to go meet somewhere and they could have the financials. If we know we want to dedicate a part of the agenda, a closed session of the year agenda to that during an election campaign, then, that can be put on the agenda and we can close it down so we're not broadcasting out to Zoom, and then the commission could be here or wherever room we're meeting in. And we, yeah, yeah.
If we met at
be paper flying around.
the other place, maybe.
No, I think the way that they just talked about it would work.
Yeah, I think, we can talk about it more, but I think bringing it here, and we close that session because we're talking about people's personal information, and then, we can share the screen like I'm doing now, and the commission can review them periodically throughout campaign seasons. And then additionally, if there are people on the commission who have time and want to, check in on a status before or after a meeting, they're always housed in Alana's office, and we can do it that way. So we could do it both ways, right? I think that's fine.
Yeah, that sounds like a good solution.
I'm actually good with them taking the whole thing. I'm sorry, never heard about that.
Did we sign a confidentiality agreement when we started?
No, but it's something, I wasn't planning on talking about it today in depth, but it's something that legal has been bouncing around for different committees in general, and I think this commission would be a good one to have their own. The enrollment committee is one that wants to have their own confidentiality agreement. We don't, I mean, you have code, the code, chapter 10, obligates you to that confidentiality, or you're in violation of it, but we certainly can create our own confidentiality policy internally and have a form.
Well, if we're looking at people's personal information, we might want to do that.
Child welfare has one, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that's the one I borrowed from when I was helping the enrollment committee make theirs, yeah.
And it's expressly set in code, their
Yeah.
confidentiality.
So yeah, I can create one, Lou, and we can circulate it and see if we want to implement that.
No, I mean, when we get to that point, we probably should sign it because we don't want to tell someone.
And the more you can cover your own liability is always the better, right? So
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
I don't want to restrict us, but it'd keep us more honest probably, I don't know.
It's just another layer of protection for yourselves, yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty-
and for the data. It's good for all parties involved, certainly.
Okay, so are we ready to move
All
on?
right, shall I move down?
No,
Okay.
Like,
No, you guys are good. So D is candidates shall not directly solicit contributions from tribal employees. E, candidates shall not solicit or accept aggregate contributions from any single individual over $500. F, candidates shall not accept total aggregate contributions in excess of the candidate's respective campaign spending limit, which is detailed below, but I'll pause, that's the next subsection. I will say E here is something that got a lot of comments during the last revision of Chapter 10 from the membership. 'Cause I can't remember how much it was potentially increasing, but I think it was 1,000 or 1,500 that the board proposed. And the membership they had a lot to say about that, and they wanted to keep it at 500, and the board decided to keep it at 500. So I imagine there'll be lots of comments that we can get on this section and the next one, which is the limits for campaign spending.
E, question. $500 isn't very much, but.
Are there any other questions on this? Okay.
We're good on these sections right now?
Yep, I think we're good on
Okay.
this.
Subsection 2, campaign spending by candidates. A, candidates shall spend contributions only on campaign-related expenditures, including without limitations, advertising, materials and supplies, travel expenses, fundraising expenses, and postage. B, candidates for chairperson shall not spend more than $50,000 aggregated, including in-kind donations for campaign activities. C, candidates for the board of directors shall not spend more than $20,000 aggregate, including in-kind donations for campaign activities. And D, candidates may spend his or her own funds, provided that the candidate does not exceed the respective campaign spending limit and the source of the funds is properly reported.
Okay, I'd like to know, how do they come to a number of in-kind donations?
On their reporting form, when they get an in-kind donation, the form directs them to, and I think it's up in the definition section too, to assign like what's called a market rate. So if I go out and my friend is a graphic designer and they make a bunch of campaign flyers for me, I would ask them to give me, even though they're doing it for free, they're donating to it, I ask them for an invoice of what they would charge a customer to do the same exact thing, and that's the monetary amount that I'm supposed to then report to the commission. Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the form, and it's in the definitions of the, above in the beginning of Chapter 10,
All
to
right.
try to guide the candidates of how to estimate what their monetary value is for those type of things.
Okay. Make which?
How many registered voters for the chairman? Do you know off the top? Just an estimate.
Yeah, it was just shy of 36,000.
Okay.
And the board had contemplated increasing these limits, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what they were going to increase them to. And they kept them the same. Yeah, maybe it was 100,000 for B and 50,000 for C, something like that. In part because of the increase to our voter rolls, now that we do automatic registration for everyone 18 and older. The discussion was these may not be enough to cover, like especially if you're running for chair and you're trying to blast out something to all 36,000 registered voters. And so they had talked about maybe increasing them. I don't know what increase would look like. So if you have thoughts now or in the future of maybe increasing these, they had initially pulled from the state of Michigan spending limits to try to guide their discussion previously. It's how they got to the numbers they got last year.
So just at 73 cents for postage, at 36,000 members, that's $26,000.
Yeah, you can run through the spending limit very quick if you're running for chair, especially. Yeah.
I just wanted to, in today's dollars, that's not as much as we think it is.
So also in this campaign spending by candidates, and I know we talked about this last time, is how candidates will form like their, like a group that's running together, and then they all use the other one's names when they're in their flyers or in their advertisements, but not register as like an NCR. So will that be, okay, that's what's coming up next, is an NCR registration. So maybe that's a question for the next part that we're going to go through.
Yeah, that's good to flag though, Jackie, because we did see this last campaign, multiple flyers that I got that had multiple candidates on it. And I'd have to look at our record to see how those got reported.
Endorse them, remember?
Well, yeah, they need the endorsement. I don't remember offhand which candidate paid for it or if they pooled their money, but they would have had to file that with us, so we can check exactly how they did it this campaign season. Because, yeah, we had multiple candidates who did flyers together at least a couple times throughout the campaign season. And I do not remember any of them filing as non-candidate registrants. They just got the required endorsement under Chapter 10. So I'd have to look back and see how we counted that monetarily against their spending limits. No one got close to their spending limits, I don't think, anyway, this campaign season, but it's data I'll pull for you guys so that'll be good for our conversations.
All right, are there any other questions with this part?
Do you want me to flag these as possible, to Letitia's point, possible discussion for increases?
Yeah,
Input from people,
after she said that.
unreasonable increase, maybe?
Yeah, postages, and it's going up again, so,
That's
Yeah.
based on 2024.
yeah.
I mean, sometimes the postcards don't cost as much, but I mean, just a basic letter, that's what it costs.
Yeah, and these aggregate amounts have been in place a long time. They have never been adjusted for inflation as far as I know. So there might be a way we can figure out a calculation for some kind of reasonable increase to propose and then get input on that.
They need to reach more people, so they need more money. Obviously.
That's what this campaign season was a real good indicator. You see a lot of grassroots movements, a lot of social media stuff that is free, right? They're on Facebook and they're maybe on Instagram, or they're reaching people through different online platforms, because that's the quickest and easiest way and cheapest way right now to reach your voters, right?
Well, then you're reaching younger people, like you said.
All right, subsection 3, non-candidate registrants. A, only members may register as non-candidate registrants. Members must register by submitting information on forms provided by the Election Commission for that purpose to the designated representative at the designated office, declaring them to be a non-candidate registrant and including the following. 1, the full name of the non-candidate registrant. 2, the name of the candidates for which the non-candidate registrant will campaign. 3, the physical and mailing address and phone number where the non-candidate registrant can be reached. 4, a certification under oath and penalty of perjury that the non-candidate registrant shall abide by all requirements of this chapter. And 5, a signed statement consenting to jurisdiction of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians for this chapter or any other chapter in substantially the following form. I, non-candidate registrant's name, hereby consent to personal jurisdiction of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians. And just FYI, I don't think we had anyone register as a non-candidate registrant this past campaign season.
Several picked up the packets, but nobody registered officially.
Okay.
Everyone good? Everyone good, okay. Let me
Okay.
go-
B, non-candidate registrants are prohibited from soliciting contributions from individuals for use in their campaign. C, non-candidate registrants may only spend funds supporting or opposing candidates for office representing the election unit in which the non-candidate, should say registrant, is registered to vote and which have been specifically identified and disclosed in the non-candidate registrant's registration letter. D, non-candidate registrants shall not spend more than $1,000 per election cycle, including direct contributions to the candidate. Now I remember.
This is kind of mucky.
Yeah, I think this language could be simplified and made more readable, for sure.
Because couldn't like a coalition of people form a NCR?
I think the way it's written,
Only members.
it's not explicit. It says only members. I think the intent was just individuals, not like three of us get together and we create one kind of a coalition. But that can be cleaned up more for the intent, because it's kind of ambiguous. The idea is you wouldn't create, like if you created a coalition, all three of you would have to individually register, or all however many of you individually register as a registrant. So however many of you want to pool your resources, you still have to all individually be registered. You have to individually submit your finances to show you didn't spend more than $1,000 individually. That's the purpose behind this.
Okay, so, and what I'm thinking is, like, say there's a group of people that are all tribal members that want to form a, Reformed Tribal Government Group, that's what they're gonna name it. And say there's 15 people in that group. Could those 15 people would have to register individually and they could spend $15,000? That's what that's what, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it works right now, yeah. If they all wanted to individually register and each spend $1,000 towards that candidate's campaign or to oppose a certain candidate, yep.
They could, okay.
Right, I don't want to do that.
So even if they form that coalition and they're all eligible to spend that $1,000, they all still, every one of them have to report individually, right?
Correct, they have to register individually and report individually, correct.
Okay, okay.
All right, so then in this part, then we're going to figure out some wording so that people aren't going to just, candidates won't be able to just skim through with saying, well, they had permission or from other candidates to use their name. If they are going to be supporting other candidates in flyers or, those kinds of things, by themselves they could, but if you're sending out a flyer, you're buying newspaper, space advertisement or any kind of advertisement, if you're going to be going forward as a group or as a team, that will then have to be registered as NCR. That's language that we're going to look to do?
If this commission wants to look at that, certainly, yeah. We can, there's no language that specifically deals with that scenario, except for you have to have the endorsement, the express endorsement of every candidate. If that's something this commission wants to craft together,
It wasn't, remember with the newspaper, I think it was, and then, I'm not gonna
yeah, we had flyers that had 2 candidates. We had one flyer that had like 3 or 4 candidates.
Yeah.
It was something that happened this campaign season.
Yeah, and we tried to, but it didn't work, so.
It could be a situation where I'm running for chair. I have a higher spending limit, so I want to blast out this big flyer, and everyone who wants, I can endorse, and they can endorse me, and then I can spend that money right now and put them on my flyer and make sure I have that endorsement, but they didn't have to spend a penny. But I just spent the money as the chairman candidate, or one candidate, or whatever the case may be, right? And I think that's what Jack is getting to. Maybe we should get some language together that more specifically deals with that and put some different sideboards on those scenarios, if I'm understanding what you're saying. Yeah.
Wouldn't they have to declare that as an in-kind donation? Being on somebody else's flyer?
That's,
Maybe, but I know that's not how previous committees or have had people, I don't think, do it that way. It's certainly, that might be one avenue to go down though, Ernie, yeah. Because right now the way it works is, they just get the endorsement and as long as whoever ultimately paid for that flyer accurately reports it, they've met their duty under the code. And they don't have to be a non-candidate registrant. The other parties haven't previously had to submit maybe in-kind donation of that flyer. That's something we can make more explicit if we want to propose those types of requirements on those scenarios. Because it's a gray area right now in our code, yeah.
well, you can get you can feed off each other, but is that wrong?
I think we need to clean up that language. That's just what I think.
Do you want to make it more expressly individual only
Yes,
for non-registrant candidate or
Yes.
non-candidate registrants? I always do it backwards.
Yeah, because, it's just another thing of making it fair to all, to everybody that's running. Incumbents can all get together and do things like that, and it just gives them an advantage, I think.
Well, as long as they're not spending the money,
We can see how they.
I don't know.
No, like Ernie said, in kind.
We're not gonna like that, I don't think.
I like that in-kind idea a lot, because that, you are getting a free ad paid for by a different candidate, and so there is a monetary value to that, just like if I went to a friend and they created an ad for free for me, right? I like that,
Yeah,
that's
just
a really
like,
good
you
point.
know, you do when, you know, you ask your friend to do you a flyer, because he's a graphic artist. You know what, yep, they're gonna have, and that's, I think that's awesome, Ernie.
Sorry, I'm just writing down in-kind donation language, cover this scenario. Yeah, that's great. Scenario, okay.
Okay, are we all ready to move? Or,
Yeah, there's two more sentences on this one I didn't read, sorry. All candidates and non-candidate registrants shall accurately account for and report all campaign contributions and expenditures pursuant to section 10.11, should say 5. All candidates shall remit to the designated representative any unobligated contributions at the end of the election cycle.
See, that's weird. Like, why are, just, that, I didn't even know that was in there. Why would any candidate turn additional contributions over to the tribe? That doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't they just give it back to the people who donated? What would the tribe do with the money?
Where's that at?
that's point 5. Yeah, all candidates shall remit to the designated representative any unobligation.
I've never thought of that. Yeah, it's a good point, Lana. I never thought of this language, and I don't think that's what actually happens. What happens is the candidates might report unobligated. So if I raised 20 grand as chair, or 50 grand, and I spent 20 grand, I would report that I had unused obligated contributions. I don't think they give that to the tribe. Yeah, this language is, I never thought about it, but I don't think that was the intent, and it's certainly not, in my understanding, the operation of how we've done our elections previously. Oh, yeah.
Have a Christmas
Beef
party,
up,
Luann, eh?
beef up our budget.
Our budget runs low.
Yeah. That's good. I'll put a note here. This language needs work to clarify intent. I don't think the intent was I have to give the tribe, the designated representative, my unused campaign funds. That doesn't make sense to me. Certainly, I don't think that was what they meant by that.
I know contributors have asked candidates to give back money.
Really?
Yeah, giving back to the individuals maybe, but giving the money to the tribe, unless that was a way that we were trying to line our coffers.
Maybe got mad at it.
Reduce the tribal support that goes to this budget, maybe, I don't know. That's,
Okay, yeah, I'll flag that. That language needs work. I've literally never read it to mean give the money to the tribe, but that's how it's worded.
Absolutely how it's worded.
All right, ready for 10.115?
Yeah.
Reports and report filing. Number 1, each candidate and non-candidate registrant shall file reports under oath and penalty of perjury with a designated representative at the designated office detailing all contributions and expenditures, including, without limitation, advertising, flyers, postage, fundraising expenses, phone bank charges, online contributions, and other campaign costs in accordance with this section. An initial report shall be filed within 5 days of registering as a non-candidate registrant or submitting a letter of intent as a candidate. Interim reports shall be filed monthly, no later than the 5th day following the end of each month. A final report shall be filed no later than the deadline set for contests. I wonder if that's supposed to be 2. There's no 2 next to it.
yes.
Sorry, I'm just talking. There was a typo. That should have been subsection 2. It just didn't have the 2 next to it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, that one, initial?
Yeah.
Want to put it to there?
I think
What is the purpose of them having to file that initial report within 5 days? Because I don't remember seeing any expenses on anybody's initial filing report.
only
Maybe one.
I think only one candidate did, and it's because they had campaign signs from a previous election cycle that they used, and they reported it as an in-kind donation on their initial report, because they were going to reuse them, and they let us know how much they initially had cost them. That was the only one that had anything on their initial filing.
And I don't believe
So I
that
don't-
that candidate should have even had to report those because he already paid for them and reported them in a previous election. He's just reusing old signs.
yeah.
Yeah. He's the
Yeah.
only one that reported that.
They were just covering their tracks.
He was, yeah. He wanted to make.
I would rather a candidate over-report to the commission than under-report, because then under-reporting, we might have to eventually deal with that as a violation. If you give us too much information, that's
Well,
all the better for the candidate.
Maybe we should put that in there, that, if you are using stuff that you used from a previous campaign, that has already been paid for, so you do not have to report that. Or maybe that's just something that we have internally that we let them know, so that, so that
That might
does
be
not
it.
count.
You attach it to the financial report.
That would be a really good internal thing instead of putting it in the code, hey?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good for policy and procedure.
Yeah.
Excuse me. What the purpose is for the initial report, I don't know exactly, I guess. It's feasible that someone could have planned to spend money like that day they file their letter of
Oh.
intent, and they do their letter of intent, and they know on that date I'm giving the newspaper this much money and I'm sending out an ad. So I think there is purpose behind that initial report, even if most candidates don't utilize it. So I think it makes sense to keep it in, probably.
So another thing for our internal then, because this was all so new, we were not hard-nosed with anybody. So say I want to file as a candidate and I do it on March 3rd. Well, if I have to turn in a report by March 8th, then why would I turn one in for the deadline of March 5th? You know what I mean? So we didn't require that in the past season. So if they filed on March 1st even, they turned in their initial by March 6th, we counted that as the one that would have been due March 5th, as well as their initial report. So internally, maybe we can spell that out a little bit more for administrative procedure-wise, because it would have been pointless. They would have been reporting the same thing, right? So,
I think that needs to be spelled out,
yeah,
just to cover us, just to
yes,
protect us.
yes.
Yeah, and something I want to put in, this is not in code, a more clear process of how, so we have someone who files late, maybe they're very late on their filing, and we have in the sanction schedule that they'll get a warning. What we did this past election cycle is my office just generated that notice, and I sent it, and I sent a copy to you all, because I didn't want to wait to get to our next meeting to go through all these reports.
We gave
But-
breaks.
We only sent out 2 notices of being late, I think, and Lana called a lot of people. But I want to help you guys create a more clear process, so we all are on the same page of how we want to deal with those kind of automatic notices that go out. Should my office just send them like we did last year and copy the chair and the rest of the commission on it? Is there a different process we want to do for you to take official action on those ones? Certainly the ones that were a bigger violation, like a complaint, we brought right to the commission. But the ones that we sent out 2 times, that they were just very late on their filing, my office just sent them a notice, hey, please do this or else you're going to be in violation and you might have a letter from the commission coming. That's something internally that we can talk about. But since we're in this section, that's how we did it the last campaign cycle. We can talk about how we want to do it for next campaign.
You must have just sent it to Boyd, because we didn't get those.
I might have just sent it to Boyd. Yeah, because Boyd signed them. So I might have just,
See 'em.
yeah, you're right. It might have been just the chair. No. The notice, that we had 2 candidates that filed their reports late, and we had Boyd send a notice.
That's right.
They-
No, I was thinking violations.
Yeah, so they might have gone just to the chair. I'll have to check on that, but we can figure out how we want that going forward internally, right? To just the chair for those, or the entire commission, how we want to deal with that. I just wanted to flag it, because it was kind of a rush process this year with y'all being appointed right before the election, and we're learning on the fly. so.
I would like it to go to the entire commission, just to protect myself. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm honest.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I think a lot of this discussion is good because it's putting other things in my mind. Like, we're talking about a lot of things that are just your administrative procedures, for lack of a better term. I think our code should absolutely reference not the detailed administrative procedures, but unless it already does, Ryan, that the commission and assigned staff, or however you word it, shall follow administrative procedures approved in conjunction with this code or something like that.
And we gotta protect you also.
Yeah, I mean, we all learned on the fly, we know that, right? So there is a lot of things going on that, it's like, man, how do you do this? How do you do that? How did they do it before? So, I'd rather, I started that step by step for you all, and that can even be expanded on and, broken down into, for the notice of election, these are the things you got to do or are required to do, kind of thing. So I would think that we should at least reference administrative procedures in our code.
It's not real explicit. It's kind of implied it's way back in the beginning. I'll make a note though. It's implied in the duties of the commission.
Tomorrow, we'd be up.
Yeah, so it's arguably in your duties. That it's not as explicit. We can make it more explicit in the language, but that would be. Why did that just shrink? That would be where you have the authority to do your internal procedures, right? Because it says use all available technology as necessary to conduct the elections, and there's another section that speaks sort of to it. So yeah, I'll make note of that. We can make that more clear as a duty of the commission, authority and duty of the commission to be able to create all necessary internal policies and procedures to help you carry out your functions.
Oh, me which? Okay, so. Should we continue on now?
Yes. Number 3, all reports.
Well, that should be number 2, eh?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. I'm just reading what it says on my screen here. All reports shall itemize all contributions and expenditures and include the name and address of each individual making the contribution. B, the amount of each contribution. C, the date each contribution was made. D, the amount of each expenditure. E, the date each expenditure was made. F, the purpose of each expenditure. G, the receipt from each expenditure. And H, copies of all ads and advertising materials endorsed by the candidate or non-candidate registrant. Interesting. I'll have to ask Lana. I'm not sure any of the candidates provided the commission with copies of their ads. Certainly we saw them because we are all registered voters, the ones that... Some did. Some did? Okay. Yeah, sorry, Phil, I stole your microphone. This list makes sense to me unless there's other comments from the commission on what to add or change, but it's pretty straightforward, detailed list of what you have to report.
Does anyone have any input?
You want to let Phil know what page we're on, maybe?
Phil, we're on page...
So Phil just arrived.
We're on page 1018, I believe. It's section 10.115, reports and report filing. Is where we're currently. Got it. I'll read the last 2 sentences in this section just because there's only 2 sentences left. Campaign materials or campaign funds acquired prior to submitting a letter of intent or registering as a non-candidate registrant must be disclosed and accounted for in the report. Well, there you go, that's partly what would be in the initial report if they got stuff.
Okay.
If they accumulated stuff in anticipation of filing their letter of intent, signs, or, building their coffers for their funds. 5, failure to report contributions and expenditures are as required shall result in prosecution in accordance with this chapter and any election sanction schedule duly adopted by the Election Commission.
Any questions? Okay, we ready to move on to the next election procedures?
All right, 10.116, election procedures. The following number 1, the following procedures are applicable to all elections. A, all elections will be conducted by first-class mail. Ballots will be mailed to all registered voters by the Election Commission no later than 21 days prior to the date of election as determined in section 10.105. B, yeah, these probably aren't right.
Yeah, we talked about that making one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we did talk about, and maybe we can have this ready for the January meeting. I was going to try to put together a proposal to how to adjust these timelines so they're longer, especially longer on the front end for candidates and for voters. But I haven't had time to really think about how we could flesh this out. But I will have something for you for the January meeting.
What about not only the mailing, I know we talked about getting everything online for voting and everything.
I think when we talked about it, we knew it wasn't gonna happen for the next election. That's just so much that has to be done to do that kind of thing, and now we no longer have a CIO who was basically
Working at that.
pushing the new tribal member website. So I don't know who took that project over, what the status is or anything, but if we would have been able to pursue getting an updated website for our members so it's more interactive, more user-friendly for all of us, where we have a member portal. I have no idea what the status on that is anymore, so we'd have to find that out, and maybe we can do that for the next meeting too, find out what the status is on our member portal and,
And let me know if I have to do anything.
okay.
And while we're talking about it, I did send you all yesterday some initial information from Clear Ballot. I'll be very brief, and we can dedicate more time to this later today or next meeting if we have more time. But our IT has been looking, and I think this commission also confirmed they wanted them to do this, looking at different technology that we can use in our elections. Our hardware and software is very outdated, and Clear Ballot is one that kept coming to the front of IT's searches. They're a federally recognized software. I don't think a lot of tribes are using them yet. Tribes that partner with Votegrity and a couple other election firms, because they use Clear Ballot out west, they have been using their system. But they're used in state, county, and federal elections. We might be one of the first tribes, if we use their software, to really lead the charge in using that software on our end if we get to that point. But they have a really cool suite of software and hardware that can also do in-person voting. Right now, they're not set up for online, but we could do that in-house and integrate it with the software if we got to that point. But if the commission, as you look through the materials, if you're interested, they would be willing to set up a meeting via Zoom at our January or February meeting, if you wanted to talk directly with them and kind of pick their brains on how their software work and get a little demonstration. But certainly they would be a cool software. I don't know the cost yet. We'd have to, and that would be a board decision if you made that recommendation. But I can look into more of what that cost would be, including if we want to, again, talk with the board about the possibility of in-person voting for the 5 units and how that company's software, what it would cost and how we could maybe facilitate that as an option. And then online is something that their software could handle, but they don't have specific software that's designed for that, so we'd have to create our own and then merge it with their software. But that is something that, if the commission is interested, I would be happy to set up. And I know IT would really like to at least get the commission connected with them as an initial meeting to see what your thoughts are, because they, meaning the IT department, is very impressed with what they've seen so far of that software, and it's head and shoulders above what we're currently using, so.
It'd be nice to know how, if those things are up to date. Our tribe has a bad habit of getting stuff that's way out of date.
Our IT,
Spend
yeah.
a lot of money, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, it's already out of date.
Our IT keeps our software and hardware as up to date as possible. It's certainly not in line with like what you'd see at the federal level or the state level, but yeah, it would depend on what the budget would be and how much it would cost. We certainly can get that set up for January, February to have a discussion with the commission and that vendor, so we can talk about more specifics of how we could. And I wouldn't be they run it for us, although they could. I was contemplating we get the software and hardware and run it and continue to run it ourselves. But we can talk about all options.
They could probably show the bells and whistles of how their system works during that meeting, hey?
That would be the intent, yeah. They can kind of, they
pretty
can come in person, but I thought for initial one over Zoom, and they can give us kind of an overview just online of some of the software. So, sorry not to derail that. So B, each registered voter may mark a choice on the ballot for a candidate for as many positions on the board of directors as there are to be filled from the voters' election unit, or for any lesser number. Additionally, during applicable election cycles, a registered voter may only mark a choice for one candidate for chairperson. C, return ballots must be received in the mail at the designated U.S. Post Office box as indicated on the ballot by the time of closing of the post office on the day of the election.
That needs rewording. And I only say that because we say by the close of business. Is that what it said? Yep. Well, the post office closes at 5.
We got it at 4:30.
But you're not getting any mail after 4:30, so I think we just need to figure out a way to word it so that it's accurate, because it's not the end of business. We're not waiting until 5, because they will not let us come there at 5 o'clock to pick it up, period. But there is no more mail going into our box per the post office after 4:30, and that's why we get it at 4:30. So it needs to be accurate in the code. It never has been. They've been doing 4:30 for decades, but it just... So I guess technically it is accurate because it's close of business. There's no more business going on with our box after 4:30, but...
Well, I know during the last election, we did have an individual go to the post office at 4:45, and they would not accept his ballot.
And they have had a actual court case on that, I believe, right, Ryan? That the member lost.
So yeah, the post office won't. Well, maybe some of them will, but their policy is not to, if I go hand in, if I take my ballot and I got it late so I can't mail it, and I want to go hand it to postmaster or one of the employees, they won't take it by policy.
Yes.
Whether some of them bend that policy, I don't know, but officially they won't accept it. They will not take it. You have to put it outside in that mailbox to be mailed to the post office, and then your ballot won't be counted. So that's why, yeah, that they will not just grab it and throw it in our box for us.
Doesn't it
We
have to
talked
go through
about
the-
whether we wanted to talk at this level and then maybe with the board about having some kind of drop boxes where people could slide in their ballot. I don't know what the cost would be, or if that's something the commission's interested in, or if that's something the board would approve, but we had previously floated that idea,
But if we extend that time, that'll help with that
Oh, yeah.
issue.
It will.
especially with the way the post office is
Because it was
running.
bad.
But yeah, the way the commission and the elections have been protected with that 4:30 timeline is, it was McKechnie versus Election Committee, 2018, maybe 2015. The candidate challenged the commission picking up at 4:30, saying they should have waited till 5. The committee and their attorney went and explained we can't wait till 5 for all these reasons. mostly because the post office won't let us. By 4:30, we have to pick it up, or we're not going to get it till the next day, and our Court of Appeals agreed, and so that's the law of our tribe, based on that Court of Appeals opinion, but it hasn't been, that opinion hasn't been incorporated into our code language, but that's,
So, yes.
We need to do that.
yeah, I agree.
Somebody,
So I flagged B as reword to be more readable. I think that's very clunky. And then I flagged what Lana just flagged, make C reflect, reword it to reflect the reality. I'll figure out what that wording could be. D, the election commission shall be responsible for picking up all return ballots at the designated post office following the close of business on the day of the election, and for delivery of the return ballots to the designated site for counting votes.
So it's not really, it isn't at the close of business on the day of the election, it's at 4:30.
No.
So that's.
Yeah, I think how we could maybe word it is something to the effect of at the close of the post office sorting, or, I don't want to lock us into a time anymore, but, because they sort everything, I've been told by like 3 or 3:30, everything is sorted. That's why we go at 4:30, because we know everything will be sorted. They're done by mid-afternoon with sorting, so we can word it somewhat to that effect and base it on the post office
When they're finished with sorting.
when they're
on
done
that
sorting
day?
the mail instead of like a specific time.
Yeah, I wouldn't put a specific time in the code.
Yeah.
Because you put a specific time, and eventually we're going to have another lawsuit to fight that. Well, they didn't, they picked it up at 3:45 instead of 4:30 or whatever,
You
right?
could put it at a designated time as noted in the notice of election. I mean, there's nothing saying we can't update that form, right?
Yeah, we could,
Maybe. Because it's, historically, we pick it up at 4:30, period.
Or per ballot, what the ballot says, because that's where it says it, at 5.
Oh, yeah, the ballot's definitely got to get updated too, because I didn't.
right, we could, yeah, I'll make, that's not for code, but I'll make notes so I don't forget. Ballot language, yeah, if the ballot says 4:30 or 4, then that also covers
We
that.
have one person, I remember that person, upset.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's frustrating when you want to vote and you can't. I get that. E, the election commission shall be responsible for organizing and implementing all security measures for handling ballots and counting votes to ensure the integrity of the election.
Should be E-N.
I see that. I was like, that's not the right ensure.
Yeah, not provide
Ensure.
insurance.
Ensure. F, the election commission shall inspect each return ballot. If a return ballot is determined to be spoiled by the election commission, the spoiled ballot shall be accounted for separately. Spoiled ballots shall not be counted as votes for the purposes of the election. G, if a return ballot contains a spoiled choice, the spoiled choice shall not be counted as a vote, but the remaining portions of the return ballot shall be counted. H, if the election commission determines that a return ballot is a marked ballot, the marked ballot shall be tallied as a vote and counted for the purposes of the election.
More related to referendums, isn't it?
Yeah.
Percentage.
I, the candidate representatives and other observers shall not be allowed to participate in the count. Any disturbance from either may result in that person being dismissed from the count room.
which we had. We had a lot of observers in our count, isn't that?
Yeah, we didn't kick in, we
No,
didn't, we
not
didn't.
in helping us with the ballots. They are absolutely able to sit in the audience and watch, and they should be.
We had volunteers, but like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, volunteers. Weren't they were opening them and counting them, right?
That's what our volunteers, yeah,
Yeah.
they should be.
but none of them, so this is speaking, we can clean this up if you
Yeah.
want, but this is speaking to candidates, it should be candidates and candidate representatives, including non-candidate registrants, but also just like family members, people that are there supporting that candidate, and the audience. So if they didn't register as a volunteer,
Right.
they can't like come from the audience and then cross that barrier and come help
Remember you
us.
Put that in there,
Yeah, so,
registered volunteers?
yeah, so we can make this a little more,
We should, because we
Yeah.
did make everybody let us know ahead of time. We didn't let anybody come in there if
Yeah.
they didn't register with us ahead of time. I mean, I think that's the best way to handle it.
yeah, this is trying to stop
Uh-huh.
candidates from or, the friends or family from crossing that barrier and trying to observe or anything, yeah.
We have police officers for that.
Always.
We had pretty good audiences. We didn't have to like
Yeah.
kick, we didn't have to kick anyone out or anything.
No.
So,
Only a little bit of mouthiness from back there, no.
There was a-
That was me on the other side, I'm just kidding.
that was a lot. Any other comments before I continue reading?
Nope.
Number 2, in the event of a tie for any office, the election commission shall conduct a recount of the votes for each candidate receiving the same number of votes pursuant to section 10.119. I'll double check that's the right section. I don't.
It's 10.122.
Thank you, Jackie.
10.1.
Election recount.
These numbers.
Any recount conducted shall be the only recount allowed for the tied candidates. A, if there remains a tie after the recount, the election commission shall decide the result of the election by drawing lots. We can discuss if that's how we still want to do it, but I don't know if that's come up recently or not.
Their names in a hat. It did in Isaac McKechnie's
Oh, yeah.
election.
Isaac's
Him and
did.
Nicole, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
There was an absolute tie even after the recount, and they had to do something like what'd they do? Put names in a hat or draw
Didn't they draw straws?
something like that? Yeah.
Drawn straws, they've done the hats.
Yep.
I think that's it.
And honestly, how else do you do it if it still comes back?
Or if
I
it's still,
mean,
yeah, I
Runoff.
don't know,
Yeah, that was,
That's actually
a runoff election.
we did a
Yeah,
recount. but
that's what my firm belief is we need a runoff election in that.
That's how a lot of other jurisdictions do it, right? It's more fair than drawing straws.
It's definitely more.
Has it-
fair.
Then you hear because then you're getting the voice of the membership.
yes.
Yeah.
Because you know how multi-million-dollar decisions are made by a draw of a name or picking a straw? To be
Yeah.
honest, no, it should be a runoff. And has it ever happened outside of Unit 1?
I think it happened with John Cosley Jr. way back. No.
And
George? George told me a story about, and I swear it involved John Cosley Jr., where they had to throw the names in a hat, and that's how he won. The one time, anyway.
But in recent remembering, it's always been Unit 1.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Unit 5 wouldn't have the issue.
No?
4? I mean, well, I guess Unit 5 could. If there's a tie even after a recount, what are you going to do there? Have another runoff election?
For a little tiny.
Well, it's something to consider
mean,
how we
think
can,
Yeah.
how we can maybe create that language for a runoff. I like the idea.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah,
heard of
so
it
do
from
I.
another unit.
It's more democratic. It's more,
You have to set up a whole bunch of new rules.
No, you just run it
You just run it the same
runoff
way as you
election,
run it,
the
yeah,
same
regular
as,
election.
And it
or
would
a
just be
special
between
election.
those two people, no new candidates, no nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could,
Yeah.
yeah, as long as it was just the same two
Yeah.
or three.
Yeah.
whatever.
Because
Right,
a
yeah.
lot of times, like I said, when it happens in Unit 1 is because you have 3 seats, you have 6 people running. So some people only vote for 2 people, some people vote for 1 person, some
Yeah.
vote for all 3. So that's where you can run into those tie issues, and who ties gets the runoff.
you could set it up too where.
For the 3rd position, because if you have a tie at this,
Oh, right.
I mean, you'd have to specify that, but other than that.
This might
Because
be,
they both get, so say both get 120 votes and the next one's 119 and then 115 and anybody under 100, the 119 are out. I mean, obviously you don't have a runoff for that because they got the positions, but if you have, at the 3rd position, you have a tie or a three-way tie, who knows?
Yeah.
And there's no contest after doing the runoff election.
And there are people that only voted for one.
I mean, I don't know.
yeah, you could do something like that.
Maybe this will be a good talking point, and we can get input from the membership.
Because you could also do like, you do a recount, we had to do a recount this year. You do a recount by
Yeah.
putting through the ballots again. If it's still tied then, you could do a hand count.
Done that before.
If it's still tied then that could go to the runoff. There could be it could be a multi-tiered approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, membership input would be great too.
Yeah,
You've
there
got to
was
look
something on-
you've
well,
got to look at the expense of a runoff too. The-
What is the expense of democracy?
If
Sorry,
if you
just
had
being
to have
flippant.
another election,
Yeah, that would increase
It'd
cost,
be
but it would be a little smaller because it would only be,
It's two.
it would probably more likely be Unit 1, but it would be 2 candidates and only to those Unit 1 registered voters, or Unit 3, or whatever it is. So it would still be a cost to it, and we'd have to set up a schedule and a timeline for everything, but we could condense it a little bit, probably like a referendum type election, and it would take time, and
It'll come out of our budget.
hey, if we get the Constitution stuff going, there's potentially a lot more elections in Sioux Tribe's future, and so we're gonna have to increase our budget either way.
And the commission. We're talking a lot of proposed elections.
But that's,
That must be a full-time job.
So are we good with the language and everything that we're gonna address in this?
Yeah, I am.
number 3, in the event of a tie in a referendum election, the Election Commission shall conduct a recount pursuant to section, that's not right, is it? 112?
It's 1, 2, 2,
22?
2.
In the event of a tie after a recount, the original board director's action that is the subject of the referendum shall be upheld. I wonder why that's not in the referendum code.
Why is it, yeah, I was gonna say, why is that even in there?
Because referendums are elections.
I know, but.
Yeah, but
everything.
is referendum ever said anywhere else in here? Because I don't,
No, everything else is in the referendum code. Yeah, I don't know why it's referenced here. It might be referenced in the duties. They give a duty of the commission to run a referendum election, but
or they had to codify it and they just threw it in there for the tie.
maybe, yeah. But that could probably be moved to the code. It might be also in the referendum code. I'll check. 10.117, right
Wait,
in,
I
oh, I'm
got-
sorry, Jackie.
Yeah, well, we wanted to, we have like 24 minutes left, and we have to go into closed session yet. And where am I? Where's my thing? Yeah, we have to go in closed session, and I don't know if you have a legal update, but we would only have 24 minutes left. So do you think we should end here and go into closed session, or?
My only legal update was just to talk a little bit more about clear ballot. That was the only thing I have for a legal update. Doesn't even have to be closed, so,
I have some things for closed session.
okay. Yeah, so I don't have anything that has to be closed.
We're not gonna get through?
Well,
No, we're not.
we thought it might take 2 or 3, right, to get through everything. If we want to go, yeah, whatever the
So
commission,
what do you
let me
want?
know.
Do we want to go into closed session now so that we have time, or what does everybody want to do?
I don't care, whatever.
Are you stopping here? Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
Well, we just finished the section, so if the commission wants to stop here, it's a perfect stopping point. We just finished that one, so.
Okay, so do we need a motion to stop here?
Okay. That's interesting, yeah. Well, maybe just ask, I don't know. Someone do a motion? It doesn't sound like you have consensus, so.
What do you want? You want me to do?
To go into closed session. To stop here and then go into closed session.
I'll propose a motion to go into closed session at this time.
I'll second.